And this video is brought to you by Draftkings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbooking app. Not only is it safe, but it is secure and Deke, it is reliable. We need reliability in this world, baby.
Man, definitely.
Got to be reliable, man. And for all the first-time users out there, if you use the promo code MOATS, you will receive up to $1,000 in deposit bonus money. So, Deke, what are they waiting on?
I'm really not sure.
Like, Deke, it's Super WildCard weekend. What are they waiting on?
I don't know. First time we got the extra games.
Come on, man. Take advantage of it. Use the promo code, download the app, and get this opportunity to make a little money.
Spillane.
Yeah, they're talking about he could potentially be back out there, man.
What are your expectations? Snap counts? What are we going to have him be doing if he does play?
To me, if he is healthy, because that's going to be the big thing. For me personally, coming back from knee injuries, that first game back, you are nowhere near healthy. You're nowhere near ready to go. But in this scenario, I don't know what that is going to be for him if he's 80%, 90%. We know he's not going to be 100%. I don't care what he says publicly. That's not going to be the case. So to me, I'm heavy Avery Williamson and Vince Williams. Those are the guys I'm leaning on. Spillane will play because he's definitely earned that right, but it's solely going to be based on what he looks like in practice. How is he moving? Okay, because it's not like he was this 4-3 guy, right? Or this big, like, bruising thumper. He's a good athlete, right? Good enough athlete, very smart, can make plays. And he saw that, right? He showed he could do it in coverage, can move well enough, right? That's with him being healthy. And it was still a big question around him. Now you're talking about a knee injury that's going to limit his mobility potentially. That's my only concern with him. I would need to just see him look healthy for me to feel confident with his role expanding now that it's playoffs, because it is the playoffs and you don't have that luxury of, let's try this guy out, and if it works, great, but if not, we'll correct it next week. That's not a given. So to me, I would much rather lean on the guys that I know are 100% healthy.
Yeah.
And if he is good to go, you get him in there. And if he makes plays and his role expands, sure. But I'm not thinking heavy Spillane early on.
It's almost like the opposite of when we brought Avery Williamson.
Yes.
Because we had Spillane, he kept making plays. It's why take Spillane off the field?
Right.
So in this case, we've had Avery Williamson over these past 4 or 5 games being the main guy, even like Vince Williams. So Spillane's coming in off this injury. It's like, all right, you kind of ease him in. You ease him in just like you would have with like Avery Williamson. Like, you're not taking the healthy dudes off the field like automatically in these do or die games.
And I think it would be different if this was still the combination of Avery Williamson and Marcus Allen. If that was the case, then it's like, hey, I don't care, that you're 70 or 80%.
Because they've been Avery and Vince have been playing well for the most part, right?
But I'm like, it's certain things that a legit linebacker compared to a converted safety, they're not going to be able to do. Is very different than the DeCastro versus Dotson and Fowler conversation that we had, right? In terms of 80% of DeCastro versus 100% of Dotson or 100% of Fowler. This is different because they don't all play the same position. Marcus Allen, he was converted there. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what he does. Fowler's been there for a whole year and even showed last year that he could start there. And he has a history, even when he was on practice squad, of playing every position on the offensive line. So that would be the only scenario where I could see it changing for Spillane. But since that's not the case, since you will have Vince and Avery out there together, I don't think you mess with that too much. Like I said, you sprinkle Spillane in where you want to, but as a whole, I feel like those are the two guys that have to, to really run the show. Now, that could change if Avery's out there playing bad blowing coverages, if Vince is still showing signs of, the COVID stuff from a cardio standpoint, well then, yeah, you operate a little bit differently. But if we're going in this thing and we're thinking everything is as we just laid out, yeah, I'm leaning heavy with Avery and Vince.
Okay.
What about you, man? What you thinking?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same way. I'm definitely going to defer to you on that one because I think Spillane was playing well before he got hurt, but at the same time, you got to be realistic with these expectations.
But because the reason I ask is like some people like they love players so much they're just like, bro, I want that player back out there, regardless if he is 100%, if he's the better player. I just want him out there, and you just never know sometimes because Spillane. I mean, we talked Spillane, man. He blew up. Think about that, man. He went from unknown to, a big deal in Steeler Nation. So you just never know how people, think of him. Like, some people might be saying, hey, man, put him back out there, bracing all. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't know. If anything, it goes back to what I was saying. You don't want to overlook the opponent, but I think this is almost a good game to maybe, you get him in there from 10% of the snaps, 20% of the snaps. If we're up and everything, See, I don't know if we are going to put him in like critical moments if the game's tied or something like that. And maybe it goes back to what you're saying. If Avery and Vince are playing fine, there's no need to be rushing that because you don't know what the reaction is with his knee or just his play in general coming off this injury.
Right. And I will say this as well, though. And this could be the only one of the caveats in terms of why we could see Spillane out there early, or why we could potentially see Spillane if he shows that he's healthy in practice. They could go ahead and put him back out there with Vince, and this is why. When you watch
with Vince or with Avery?
No, with Vince.
Okay,
and this is the only reason. Okay, Avery is still very much new to the defense, right? We talked about, like, even though he's been here for a couple of weeks now, like, it's not like he had a full training camp, still hasn't went through a full season. We talked about how he had to unlearn the Jet stuff and learn our stuff kind of on the fly, and then kind of got thrust into action once Spillane went down. He even talked about, how Vince helps him in terms of getting aligned and stuff, right? Last game, he still was struggling with some of the communication. He still was struggling with some of the concepts from just how in Pittsburgh we pass off certain routes, how we match routes versus just traditional zoning. And from a defensive standpoint, it was still some of that stuff that showed up on tape. So this could be a scenario where if they feel Spillane is healthy, because of his familiarity with the scheme, because of the playmaking that he already showed when he was out there and not a ton of mental errors. I mean, we talked about it, like when he got those opportunities, he was pretty much clean from an assignment standpoint. That could be one of the reasons why they could potentially go back, because like I said, definitely this last game, Avery did struggle a little bit more with some of the cover stuff, not necessarily from an ability standpoint, but just more so from an assignment standpoint, just a little bit. So like I said, that could be one of those things that they just feel more comfortable with him versus him in that scenario. But outside of that, I don't see why you change, Vince and Avery.
And with the practice, it's something that we don't know right now.
Right. Yeah.
So, if he is playing good in practice, that might actually switch your opinion a little bit, where you're more apt to make that switch earlier on in the game.
Right. We just, this is 2020/21, and we don't get access to practice right now.